Hello. So it's 9:11 on the clock, and I'm with a dog that I'm sitting for right now, and he is like barking out of character. And I looked at the clock, like I said, and it happened to be 9:11. So yeah, it just sort of sparked something. I am still having some upload issues with YouTube. I am trying my best to figure it out. I thought I fixed it, and then the same thing will happen. Like, it will work, and then it won't work again for, like, I'm not, like, noticing a pattern yet of how much time. Anyway, so some of you could be also having some sort of technological issues, or in whatever your endeavors are, like, there may feel like there's some sort of delay, or, like something might be like rolling, and then all of a sudden there's like a little pebble in your way, like an obstacle. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, so I was a little bit hesitant to record because I guess I'm just really used to like recording and uploading. I don't usually keep like a very long backlog. You know what's really interesting? Okay. I was just walking this dog this morning, and I saw this woman walking up to an office building, and she was using a bag, like a roller bag, similar to what I used to use when I was a freelance court reporter. I mean, the odds of her being a court reporter were very low, but it just kind of like reminded me of what like my mornings used to be like and how different life is from when I left my previous career. And when I was in that space, lots of releasing going on, that chapter of my life, if you will, I was always extremely busy. And speaking of backlogs, I would take verbatim transcripts, and then they would have to be produced by a certain date. I worked a lot. Like, for the average freelance reporter, I probably worked all the time. And a lot of freelancers did not. Like, they worked a couple times a week. I worked like every day. So my backlog was always like just insane. Like, I was always like out of my ears in backlog transcripts. So I'm sorry, I'm clearing my throat so much. So I guess subconsciously I have this like, I don't like that feeling of a backlog because I was doing it for so long. I was a freelancer for 10 years plus. So the reason why I tell this is because maybe some of you are also in a new phase or chapter of life. It doesn't mean you have to have a different job, but it's kind of like there's something from the past coming up that may be showing you how much is actually shifted, changed, and it's like there's something that you do now, whether it's like my example, like something that's similar, like, not wanting a backlog because that's something that you associate with stress, but there's also like a different level of organization that I have now. And I was getting this message for a few months, like a little while back, whenever I would see the number 9/11, usually it's like this urgency, right? Like 9/11, it's an emergency, which of course, if you're actually in an emergency, please always still utilize that reference. But this message is coming through about like, I guess like hustle culture. And like, if someone is still involved in that, like that is their timeline, and that is totally okay. But this is about, you. And if you're someone who's either just not wanting to be involved in that anymore, and or you're like actively not or working on that, then this would be for you. So like, it's a reminder, like this morning when I was on this walk, it was just a reminder of like what my life used to be like and how different it is now. And even in this phase that I'm in, I'm still in a pretty like transitional phase. And I do feel like that transitional phase is coming to a close. meaning like I do feel like there's even a new phase that is beginning. And I was about to say my sister, but I didn't mean to say that. So maybe some of you have a sister, or you're just talking to a sister, or someone who's like a sister. But I was going to say, I'm recording this right after an eclipse. There was like a full blood moon eclipse, I think. And I think it was a full blood moon eclipse. And it's funny because I just randomly put on the show that I haven't seen in forever, because I'm at a place now that has that channel. And one of the characters in the show, I think it's called Sex Lives of College Girls. And she talks about like, she tries to basically get her RA in trouble and says like that she's a practicing Wiccan, and she needs people to light candles at any time to honor her religion for the blood moon. And I just realized, like, I'm pretty sure we just had a blood moon. Let me check. Yes, so there's something significant about the blood moon, and I want to also add that I shouldn't say often, but there, with these like shifts of like nature cycles, often our bodies may, especially if we're really tuned in, will shift with it. And my moon cycle this month actually extended. And yeah, like, so some of you who have your moon cycle still may be having experiences and changes in some way, whether it's shortening, lengthening. Actually, I didn't even realize, I think I got mine like the day after the eclipse, or the day of the eclipse. So yeah, there could be something like this happening for you. 7-11 on the timer. And now if you're not someone who has, why can't I think, is still having their cycle in that way, then there could be some other cyclical shift happening within you. It could be very like minor or micro, so it might be something you don't notice right away, but for some of you, you will. Man, woman, whatever gender that you identify as. So yeah, especially if you've been like actively working towards something, it feels like this energy is like assisting with that, like it's speeding things up for you. Now, if you're finding this at a time that is not around this time period that I'm recording, then just know that there's been some sort of seed planted around this time. So whether you're finding this 1 day, 5 days, 7 days, 6 years later, there's some significance to this time period is kind of what I'm getting. I brought this up the other day in a different transmission, but it's coming through again. Some of you may be going through nightmares. Nightmares and or like traumatic memories coming up in some form. People from the past maybe recirculating your field in like strange ways. You may be noticing patterns, that things are happening in patterns. And I did just want to note on this that as I was talking about before, we tend to have during purges, shifts, whether that's mental, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of the above, one of the above, where, it's like the same example that keeps coming up of bringing out the towel, of all of the lingering or excess patterns, memories, emotional reactions and responses to things that we may no longer have that same reaction to, or at least as strong, so it comes back again, and it's like another layer is able to be transmuted or alchemized, because let's say in the past, if you were still having, thank you for the reminder, a dragonfly just flew by my window. I'm on the 40th floor right now. And I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, we may not be having, I was saying, okay, for example, if you were having some sort of response to, let's say, a nightmare, right? And it was like all consuming you, like you're having a nightmare and it was, bringing back memories and you weren't able to sleep. It's like during that period you were releasing, acknowledging it, adding awareness. But now it might be coming back around as like you're able to observe it more, let's say. And if you're not there yet, just know that these things tend to happen in phases and stages, and where you are is perfect. It's not about rushing. It's just like, a cyclical, more spiral effect to deprogramming some of these like traumatic responses and or patterns. So neutrality, observing things like this may be either something that's coming in the future for you or something that some of you are experiencing now. And even that has different, levels of reattunement. So the dragonfly. So the last few days, I'm saying this like excited, but like, okay. I was talking to a friend and she was like, oh my God, a dragonfly. Actually, I think it was in this apartment where I am right now. So she was staying here with the dog and then she left and I'm here now. And she said a dragonfly flew into the window and died. And I was like, oh my God. Like, so whenever I feel like, or whenever I hear or see or walk by a creature that leaves the earth plane, I usually do a little just like send off, to the next round type of thing. And so I did that and, I took note of it, but I didn't think too much of it. Like the next day or the day after, I've been swimming more often and I went to the pool. And the pool that I've been swimming in is generally, I'm not there anymore, so I'm going to try a new pool this week. But the pool is generally pretty clean. Anyway, all around the pool were like, I don't know, it was like all these leaves were washed up and all this dirt. And then I found a dead dragonfly. And I like almost never see dead dragonflies. And within like a 24-hour period, 2 dead dragonflies. So for me, dragonflies represent generally like karmic loops coming to a close. And the fact that 2 were dead in 24 hours, really shows me that like 1 to 2, for some of you, maybe more, karmic loop patterns not only are coming to a close, but they're like, so they're showing me, I'm being shown miasma, which is like essentially like dead or frozen light in the body that can like accumulate almost like what some of us call a blockage. And yes, but I also like to think of it as a, what ice does is that it preserves, right? Frozen light, when we think of ice. So the rune Isa could be significant for some of you. But it's like these preserved chelons, these preserved cells, this preserved pieces of us, that appear stagnant, which, because from some perspective, it is stagnancy. And another perspective, it could be, being preserved for the right time for a thawing or... and of course, during that time, sometimes, if you have ice, if you've seen snow and it starts to melt, it's like pristine and beautiful. And then, some of you may be around expression. The way you walk by snow and it looks perfect. And then like life happens and cars drive by and then it gets all black and then dogs pee on it. And then someone throws a slushie on it, and it gets all like gunky. So it's kind of like that. But then once the rain comes and purification and washes that away, and then it gets recycled. So I'm being shown that cycle of like how it can feel for us. Like along the way, we accumulate, some. The word I'm just getting is gunk. Some gunk. So it may take again that towel effect of like bringing it out and then purification to renew it. And then, the rebirth happens. So, when I said that, my heart and my chest just got like extremely hot. Wow. I was not expecting this morning. I have to say, it's interesting, when I was first starting my walk, I was a little bit like, I wouldn't say I was grumpy. Like, I did my little exercises that felt good. I don't know. I just like, I feel like I'm just really ready for a change. And I was like, not in the moment. It didn't last very long, but I now am realizing, I think also it was a collective energy coming through. Like, maybe some of you here may be feeling like a little bit, I don't know if restless is the right word. I feel more just like slightly annoyed, and I'm not sure why. So it's like maybe a little bit of irritation. This actually feels like a great thing, because I feel like wherever you are, it's like there's a version of you that, you know, maybe loved where you are now, and it, you know, it doesn't even have to be like a literal geological location. Like, this could also just be like, you know, just where you're at in general, like emotionally, mentally, physically, all the things. I just heard someone ask a question like, why do you always address all the different possibilities? Yeah, well, there's a lot of layers to us, the subtle bodies, and not everyone is working or tuned into the same layer at the same time. And because this is collective, yeah, I just like to, and, you know, these may be finding people at different stages too. Even in a personal session, I may do that, because it helps us remember that, like, these things come and ebb and flow and go through these different layers of us. Oh, actually, the other day I was looking down at the ground, and I saw a question, like, it looked like a scuff mark in the form of a question mark. So you may be seeing, like, whether it's question marks, like in odd places, or some other sort of symbol, as like signs in some way. Another dragonfly just flew by. Maybe some of you are drawing symbols. For a few of you, you may be like creating symbols. They don't have to be like completely original, you know, you may be just like drawing symbols, but for some of you, they may be light language is coming through, and you may be like decoding. Some of you may be like starting, or you may be starting soon to decode light language, or like putting out things for others to decode. That's very specific, but yeah. So with the question mark, right after I found that, I listened to something on YouTube, and they brought up like, oh, something in the form of a question, like there's something about an important question that is going to be clarified or answered soon. So that could also be for some of you as well. Maybe some of you have some like burning questions, and this eclipse, and or whenever you're finding this, whatever cycle you're in is bringing some sort of answers to questions. I just heard like, will I like the answer? Well, that would be different for everyone. You also may be seeing like, I just heard like isosceles triangle, or maybe you really love triangles. There's something about triangles, triads. Also, birthdays and like screen names, or what are they called now? Like handles. I'm seeing those as well for some reason. Okay. So back to the 911 and like attuning yourself to a more like an aligned pace for you, whatever that is. So this can take time, at least in my experience, of reminding yourself that basically like not feeling like you need to rush all the time. Now, remember, I mean this just for those who are like actively wanting this. And I've been actively working on this for years now. And even once in a while, I'll find myself like rushing through something that I don't need to be rushing through. And this is something that's important to me. Like, I like being more in the moment and not rushing and being in flow. That's just something that I have been wanting and doing, actually. Anyway, so yeah, for those of you who also are feeling that or wanting that or actively working on that. I just stepped on the balcony, so I hope it's not too loud. Yeah, this has also been a time to slow down, and this like last phase, or some of you may be stepping into this phase of like reprioritization, reorganization. So now at this stage of my life, I feel like I have been kind of revamping, if you will, so that I can handle more responsibility just in a much more organized, paced, balanced way. Like I was very like all or nothing kind of thing, or just like really obsessed with like one area of life, you know, something like this. So yeah, there's something about that. For each of you, it may be a little bit different, of course, but just that general idea. Yeah, and so whenever you're finding this, it feels like there's been a completion in that phase of like reprioritization, and or again, for some of you, maybe starting. It feels like starting or ending something. That may not be for everyone, but that's like the really strong feeling that I get. The ocean and the sun could be really significant right now, or just bodies of water. Even if it's a bathtub or a shower, there's something about really utilizing water and or an element that really speaks to you. It doesn't have to be water, but there's something about like the water in the body too. Like, you know, we're made up of mostly water. So there's something about like the body holding a more crystalline structure within not just the conscious. Okay, so those of us who have been tapping into crystalline consciousness, it's like they're showing me that it's I'm being reminded of this. I talked about it on YouTube like at some point, where someone like looked at the crystalline structure within the body under a microscope. It was so beautiful. So there's something about like these Hellllo crystalline codes that are actually not just hatching etherically in our consciousness, but it's like starting to take form in our bodies. It feels like in the next, like, I just saw like someone talking about like donating their body to science. Like I feel like over the next like, I just heard like 25 years, like I feel like our physical bodies are going to be like showing up differently in testing in some way, especially related to like the water in our body. Don't quote me on this. This is just something I'm picking up on as a potential. And I do know that there's someone on who speaks on the platform Portal to Ascension quite a bit. And apparently, like, I don't remember her name, but she had like testing done, and apparently her body was always very different than like most people's bodies. And she acclaims, is that a word? Says that she has like genetics from an ET race. It's a whole thing. Anyway, but I feel like that's within all of us, and some of us, you know, these potential for evolution of genetics, and as we activate, you know, and integrate, etc., in according with the natural planetary cycles, I feel like we have these like different gene expression potentials, and the DNA starts firing different, like fire letters come up. So yeah, I feel like some of us are going to be having some interesting things happening. Maybe I'll dive into that in the near future, more in depth, but yeah, because they're being shown something about how those of us who have been talking for a long time, or time isn't really relevant, just interested in topics like hemi-syncing, right? When we start syncing our right and left side of the brain, you know, as dolphins have that fully intact, it's like there may be like some physical manifestations through our physical body that show up differently. And I know like generally in genetics, it's like it comes through generations and generations of evolution. But there is something about like the speeding up, like that has been happening. The seedings have been seeded, and I'm not saying that in the future it won't be even more changes, but I do feel like this time period will be, we're seeing these shifts in like metabolic stages, and it's already happening. I mean, people that are remembering and integrating some of these, I guess like people are calling it biohacking. Biohacking is coming through, but like, it's not even about like, I mean, yes, biohacking, but like also, I don't know, when I say the word biohack, it makes me feel like we're trying to like beat something, you know? And I guess in some way we are, but it more feels like reattuning to each person, you know, has their like authentic blueprint, I guess you could say. And when those of us who are really tuning into that, it's like, it's really like coming through the material now, you know, like in anthroposophy, they talk about etherization of the blood. You know, I feel like this might be a Patreon overflow. Honestly, I haven't decided yet. Anyway, I'll just keep going. Yeah, so very fascinating. I just opened my email and there's actually, speaking of Portal to Ascension, one of their webinars, Sacred Science of the Ancients, right? So I feel like I didn't even realize that was in there, but I feel like that is so fitting for what we're speaking on, like this idea of sacred science that is being, you know, rebirth through this phase of the ascent into this, you know, next golden age. So I do feel like there are just these surprises along the way. I mean, when I say surprises, I don't mean to make this like all about physicality, because of course everything's connected, but I am being very brought to the physical body. And I was talking about the etherization of the blood in anthroposophy. And, you know, I do just want to take a second to acknowledge, like, over the years, there's been these different epochs that have come through as a reminder of like how long these Akash imprints have been imprinted and seeded, and like just to give thanks to all present, past, future liminal space experience imprinters who have been going through this and assisting, some of them consciously, some of them subconsciously, some of them coming back in different forms to help us remember what they did, you know, not just they, we as a collective. So, and even those who, you know, are seemingly not assisting, I feel like it all of it is a part of the universal design, right? And yeah, I was speaking on, this is going to be the overflow for the fabric of reality transmission. You know what? Let me just, speaking of organization, this came in so impromptu that I did not take a second to organize, so please bear with me. Okay, just kidding. Just kidding. Because this will be for YouTube. Thank you for working through that process with me. You know, a past version of me would have deleted this and started over because I didn't have it perfectly, you know, but no, I still feel like this will not be deleted and put out. So a blood moon is a colloquial term for a total lunar eclipse, which during the Earth's atmosphere filters sunlight, scattering most of the blue light and leaving the moon with a reddish or coppery glow. So some of you could be like noticing or drawn to copper, red hues of those colors. Metallic has been coming through a lot lately. Metal, I just heard metallurgy. Am I saying that right? which is the science and technology of metals, covering their extraction from ores, refinement, study of their physical and chemical properties, development of alloys, and their processing into finished products. Well, if any of you are into that, feel free to share about it, because that's not something I know too much about, but it sounds very fascinating. Okay. The term can also refer to a red-hued moon caused by atmospheric conditions like dust or smoke. Culturally, blood moons have historically been seen as omens, from portending death and disasters in ancient cultures to signaling renewal or spiritual significance in others. You know, this is similar to the comet. I was speaking about comets recently and how they also can be portrayed as, quote, bad or good omens. I do have a friend I haven't spoken to in a while, and she would always say that eclipses were a time of basically exit points for people, that people and or beings like these dragonflies, I guess, where and by exit points, I mean to transition off the earth plane. And I also just want to add that it feels like this is also, these are potent times, these significant cosmic events or celestial events, phases of ourselves. I didn't mean to say phase. I meant to say, I was trying to say the word sheath, but I kept hearing the word tunic. I could only say the word tunic. I had to pause for a minute. So a tunic could be significant for someone, but a sheath, it could be aspects of ourselves that are being, like the death card in tarot, dying to be transformed. So we could take that how it applies. But there's significant sheath release, I feel, for a lot of us. If you have a connection with the idea of, being a walk-in soul in any way, whether it's stepping in a part of your own energetic signature and or in another way, if you don't know what that is, that's totally okay. But if you do, you may be having a significant integration with this. And, if you're not super familiar, or even if you are, there's, always something to know about this stuff. There can be integration, sometimes up to 7 years, Earth years. So if you feel like you're behind or you're doing something wrong, it does not feel like that way at all. I just want to tell it, that's a side note for someone. The song from Sia, Cheap Thrills, has been in my head off and on, which is basically being able to have fun even if you don't have money. Now, whether that is literal for some of you and or something else, whether it's money or something else, if you're really ready to be in a relationship or to have that job or career or whatever it is, it's something about really being in the moment and still being able to, not 100% of the time, of course, but to still be able to really have this thrill. Can sound a little bit fleeting, but sometimes we need an extra little thrill. So some of you may be I was talking about in the beginning, that irritation or stagnation a little bit. So just doing something that feels freeing or fun, even if it's just listening to music, not just, but dancing. I've actually been jumping a little bit, in the mornings, sometimes at night. It's promoting your lymph system movement. I don't do it for very long, I'm building up, but honestly, I feel a difference just from a little bit of jumping. And if you're not able to jump because of something, shaking your arms, or like whatever you can do, you know, in some way. If you do have like access to a trampoline or something, maybe safely, of course, doing something like that. I don't know, there's just something about like, yeah, like movement, jumping, dancing, singing, regardless of whatever it is that you are like calling in, working on, like something about bringing in like a thrill for yourself. Some of you may be already doing this, and this is just confirmation or validation that it is like, it's helping. Okay, so the other day my phone started like somehow on its own dialing numbers, and it dialed like 777 star. And I've been seeing 777 like everywhere. So you could be seeing sevens. There is something about, I heard the froze. I meant to say phrase. Ooh, froze. We were talking about ice earlier. So something about something frozen. Yeah. Some of you may actually feel like your, quote, luck has been frozen in some way. Like, there could be something like you feel like a generally, maybe, quote, lucky person, but maybe like it's been feeling a little bit off lately. It will be different for everyone, potentially, but there is something about like creating your own luck and then like watching it surround you, you know, and not just you, like others in your life. I feel like people benefit, like we all benefit from each other, you know. In that way, I feel anyway. Yeah, anyway, so lots of sevens. And then I noticed on my feed on YouTube, like I didn't seek this out, but like videos about like learning how to hold wealth and money. Like a lot of people, you know, you've probably heard this a million times, but like lottery winners, right? Like they win the lottery and then they blow through the money in a couple years because they don't know how to hold that. And I actually, a few years back, had like a little lump sum of money when I sold my place. And I definitely, it's funny because at the time, like I like quit my job and just like leaped into life. So I kind of feel like on some level, like I knew I was doing this, but you know, I don't want to do that again. Like I don't regret my decision of the way I used it, but like now as I build up financially, like I want to do things differently this time. Because even before that, I was always very responsible with money, I would say. And I think I just had to go through that one phase of just like doing what I was doing. But now I'm ready to like, yeah, like this time I want to build in a different way. Anyway, so videos about like, you know, how to like build on your finances and not just blow through them have been coming up. So I've been, you know, learning things that, you know, some of it I'd already heard of, some of it I haven't. So some of you could be, and it doesn't have to just be around money. Like, you know, maybe if whatever it is that you're calling in, like maybe there's something showing up, like the next stage of that. Like, okay, maybe it hasn't fully come in yet, but it's like, for example, videos of how to hold something are coming in, whether it's money, love, your own business, all the above, whatever. So it's something about like that preparation that like, it feels like something really is coming in and you're like, even now prepping the container to hold whatever that is. Oh, I kept seeing also references, like cigarettes showed up in my reality, like in such weird ways. Like I feel like it hasn't for a while. And then like, yeah, like I was saying, the pool that I swim in is usually clean. And there were like cigarette butts in the pool. And I was like, people even smoke here? Like this is so weird. And then I saw a pack of cigarettes on a table where I was, and I was like, where did these, like, I just kept seeing, like, this is all within a very short time. Within, like, 2 days, I just kept seeing, like, so many references, like, cigarettes. I kept smelling cigarettes, like, and it was a reminder that I'm someone off and on. I've never been, like, a buy a pack every day smoker, but, like, I've, like, always dabbled with smoking. And I remember a boyfriend that I had, it's been a long time, but he read this book when he wanted to quit smoking. This was like over a decade ago. And apparently there were like these different types of smokers, according to this book. And he was like a full-time smoker. And he was like, you know, the book says that you're the worst kind, meaning me, because I just like smoke whenever I quote want to. I don't know. I forget, like there was like something behind a reason why, I don't remember. Anyway, but like I just have no desire. Like, it's crazy. Like, I just like don't, once in a while now, like if I'm like having a drink, I might, whatever. But like, yeah, like I walk by it and I just have like zero, like before I'd be like, oh, do I want one? Maybe I want one. It was like this whole dance in my head. Now, like I just, and like like I said, if the occasion arises, maybe like whatever, I have one and then I'm like done. Like I don't even think about it anymore. Anyway, so there's something about that. It doesn't have to be smoking with all of you, but there's some sort of like something, like some sort of habit or experience that like used to like entice you or like make you indecisive or something. And I feel like now it's coming back around, and like you don't have to be in the same place I am. Like this has been like a long cycle of different, again, those layer releases, but there could be something that used to like really you wanted, like, or felt like you wanted, and now like there could just be like a detachment of that in some way. Oh, okay. This song, I think it's The Vines, Get Free, was like playing in my head for like 3 days straight. And I haven't heard that song. I don't even know the last time I heard that song, actually, but it just kept coming up. So I did listen to it eventually. Yeah, so I just heard the Freedom Technique, EFT. That could be coming up for someone. I was just showing like a rainbow and then the 10 of Cups card in tarot. I just heard the word Royale. That might be a tarot deck. I'm not positive, but let me see. I've never had this deck, but it's called the Gilded Tarot Royale by Ciro Marchetti, and Barbara Moore. And on the cover, there's like a lion and a woman, kind of like with a celestial background. And they're both looking in the distance, like profile views. It's also 10 o'clock on the dot. And I just got a magnet storm geomagnetic activity notification. Yeah, so there's something about lion archetype, the feline beings, races. I'm hearing like different realms and dimensions. So this one and others, like sort of dimensional bleed through is coming in. Blue beings have been coming through so strongly. There are these race of beings that come through the Pleiades, and for some reason their name just popped out of my head. They come in a certain name and I feel them, and they've been coming through for days, and I literally, the name just went away. So I'm sure there's a reason for that. If it comes back, I will definitely let you know. Yeah, so Ten of Cups. So whatever this 4323, yeah, there's some sort of, that's like my union number. So I've been speaking a lot about like the hierogamic templates. So this like inner union, of course, and there's external union, etc. So it does feel like there's a progression when it comes to this hierogamic template. Now, wherever you are with that, again, maybe different for each of you, but there does seem to be some sort of, it's interesting because it's like an expansion, but also like an integration. So it's like expanding out and coming back in, almost like tides, like the water goes out and then comes back in. Like there's something about that. And we were talking a lot about the water within the body. I was just guided to look up the 10 of Cups in the Gilded Tarot, because I've never even seen this card physically that I know of, but like I just had it flash in my head. So the 10 of Cups in the Gilded Tarot represents the traditional tarot meaning of emotional fulfillment, a happy family, lasting harmony, and a true sense of joy and contentment. Like other decks, this card embodies the ideal of a, quote, happily ever after scenario. You know what's so funny? Okay, before this card popped in, I kept seeing like two people like riding into the sunset type of thing, like fairy tale type of energy. And I was like, I'm like, if that's meant to come through, I will let it really, really come through. And here it is. So that's really interesting. Signifying that a true sense of happiness is found in authentic bonds and connections with others. In the Gilded Tarot, the imagery of the card will depict this joy and wholeness, aligning with the common understanding of the card. Harmony, wholeness, family, community, happily ever after, in quotes. I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, it showed me the full cup. The full card. Okay, that's interesting. So some of you, you may say that expression like filling your own cup type of thing. Some of you may literally be like pouring something and filling a cup. So in this card, feel free to Google it. Ooh, there's a feline, a cat, at the bottom of the feet of two women sitting together, and they're like, seems like they're doing something with their hands. Like one of them looks like maybe they're like embroidering a drum. Is that even a thing? Well, I forget the proper name. There's like something you do with drums, and I can't remember the name of it, but some of you may be connected to that. And the other one looks like she's maybe making a dream catcher. Yeah, and there's like this little house with tall grass, very green grass. And there's a rainbow. I knew I was getting a rainbow. Depicting through. It's really interesting. All the cups are like stacked over the house in like an arch, and then the rainbow is like arching through the cups, and then there's bees all around, so you could be seeing bees. Lots of horns in the background, you may hear that. Bees, right? Community, honey, sweetness. Bernard cells have been coming through a lot. Some of you may feel connected to that. I just heard the expression of sweetness. Yeah, like on a cellular level. Yeah, and it's interesting. This does not feel like it's being chased either. So like, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, like even saying it, I'm like, ugh. But this idea of when we talk about what surrender is, it's not, there's something about that, inner union of masculine and feminine, of like receiving, taking action. Now, again, depending where you are in that phase, like some of you may be feeling called to more restore your yin energy. Some of you may be more restoring your yang energy. Some of you are like the water flowing through both, whatever it is for you. It just feels like there's, again, that release of something that clicks you into the more it sort of feels like you are accepting of where you're at, but you're also like motivated that there's desires for a deepening of your life, expansion. And it's like, that feels like that sweet spot that then boom, things start happening. That's really what it feels like. Okay. That song, I Want to Get Free, is coming on in my head again. So yeah, freedom codes. Some of you may feel like you are, or in the past and or future, are working with the magician archetype. Names are just like not coming to me. Like I'm feeling all of these different archetypes, consciousness streams come through, beings, and like the names are just flying out of my head for some reason. Merlin, Harry Potter. So Harry Potter kept coming up over and over. So many people are talking about it now. And the other day I was like, I saw the first Harry Potter when I was when it first came out in the movie theater with a friend and her mom a while back, obviously. And yeah, I never read the books. I was never that really big into Harry Potter. But the other day I was like, maybe I should watch one of the movies, I don't know. But I didn't have access at the time. I didn't even think about it. It was like maybe 4 days ago. And then this place that I just got to now had these other channels, and I turned something on. I just picked like a random one. And then within that row was like, do you want to watch Harry Potter? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I will. So yes, things like that could also be happening where you just like say something that seems like not possible at the time, and then like a few days, even if it's just like watching, it's watching a movie, it's not like discovering the next element on the periodic table, although for some of you maybe, but like you'll just notice like things are just coming in quickly. And now, this has been happening for a really long time, but so for some of you it may have been happening for a while, but again, there's an expansion wherever you're at with that. So you may be seeing or hearing a lot of references to highways. I had this astral experience like maybe 2 years ago where I was like pure consciousness on this highway, and I was like zooming through this highway at different speeds, and the highway was like shape-shifting into different elements, and sort of like, I did watch Harry Potter, so I will reference it. In the first movie, the Sorcerer's Stone, when they get to the house in Hogwarts, like the stairs move, they're like, or what's that movie Encanto where the house is like alive, this was kind of like that, but I'll say more high tech, like whatever setting I was in this astral highway experience, it was like almost like high resolution. If you get a TV that's like very high resolution, like this, I guess I'll call it a matrix or terrain was like very high resolution, and like the phase change as things were shape-shifting were almost like seamless. Like you could barely tell it was happening. Andromeda Galaxy could be coming through for some of you. They say incarnations at the consciousness level of Andromeda Galaxy consciousness streams are, the physicality is very allegedly, like it's not very dense, and it's constantly shifting and changing. So it kind of reminded me of that. Not maybe quite at that level, but in that ballpark. Anyway, so I'm on this highway, and all these different things are happening. And this was, like I said, like 2 years ago. And all of a sudden, the last few days, I must have heard the phrase supernatural highway, consciousness highway, this highway, like over and over again. So the harmonic convergence has been coming through really strongly. And the term convergence and timeline convergence. I actually did a transmission. I was guided to look back 6 months ago. I had, I took a picture of my YouTube from 6 months ago and like 4 or 5 videos. And it was like, I don't know, I didn't even realize I was like telling a story at the time with the transmissions that were coming through. And now it's coming back again. So this was, again, 6 months ago from, September 2025. Now I know why I quote accidentally said my sister. So at this time period, I love patterns. They're so fun to identify. At this time period, 6 months ago, I was in San Francisco with my sister and my niece, my nephew, and my brother-in-law, helping them out with the kids. And they just asked me to come back. And I'm going back there in a few weeks, actually. And I just realized now that like 6-7 month cycle where it's coming up again. And anyway, one of the YouTube transmissions I didn't even realize I brought through was called timeline convergence. And now, again, it's coming up really strongly in the collective. So yeah, it feels like there's that seed maybe that was planted 6 months ago is really coming forth. Like the etheric seed I'm showing, or the Rasha bodies coming through, like the dark matter template is like like eclipses, right? They like eclipse out things, and of course when that new comes in. So yeah, it feels very significant. You could be having also internal knowings about things that are getting stronger. Some of you may be having the gifts come online. You may be like phasing out certain, if you work with like etheric, angelic beings, guides in any way, any realm or dimension, there may be like a phasing or shifting out of new ones coming in. Some of you may like have ones that don't ever leave, but again, the feline and lion beings are coming through. Lyra and the harp has been coming through so strongly. I was just talking about that in a previous transmission. No, maybe I wrote about it on Substack a little bit. Yes, the Fabric of Reality article on Substack. I was talking a little bit about Lyra. So yeah, there is something about our own collectively, like tracing our lineage, our soul lineage, and our I hesitate with the word origins because in etymology, origin I believe means to rise. So it's more about like, our fractalization when we incarnate into physicality, or even like the pre-liquid matter light realms, and then start a journey, so that our own individual connection to that as well as collectively, and just like the highway, right? It feels like there's so many tracks. It's kind of like that phase, all roads lead home. It's kind of like they're showing me that almost in reverse to our origins. Like it's almost like there's so many co-creation stories. Of course, we have like, I've been going through the book, actually, The Prism of Lyra, which I believe is from Alyssa Royale. So that name and word is coming through. Let me just make sure. Yeah, The Prism of Lyra, an exploration of human, why can't I say this word? Eclectic heritage. Alyssa Royale. Okay, yeah, there we go. So, back to the highway reference. It's like all of these different pathways. I've listened to a lot of different speakers, teachers, thinkers, over the years, and I still continue to. And I know it can sometimes feel like, I have the answer, I have it figured out. And like maybe on some level we do, but I do feel like each one of us has this different piece, and it's like the last transmission I was talking about the fabric of reality and the architecture, the geometric architecture. And there's just this, I don't know, it just feels like we each have these different keys that click us into these memories. And it's like this super highway, there's so many paths and so many ways. I feel like I'm repeating myself now, but the emphasis on this is getting really strong. Oh, I also feel like you may be seeing like squids or squid beings, octopi. There were these beings that came to me. They came through as like a guardian race, etheric octopi beings. They came through in different ways, and now I feel like there's squid beings coming through in that way. If this does not sit with you at all, that's totally okay, but some of you may feel like you're connecting with this as well. I was just shown the lungs and dendrites, and the connection to trees, and how like trees and leaves can often mimic like our own body systems. So some of you may be into that. I just heard the word impressions. That can apply to many different fields. So there's something about impressions. Like when you get like x-ray impressions, or I'm seeing like molars, teeth, wisdom teeth, different bones, the femur. A trapezius muscle. Yeah, just different things coming through. Also, timeline convergence. And I wrote down as within mental plane neural pathways. Yeah, so there's something about that too, like the neural pathways in our brain that are almost like depicting a superhighway, and how sometimes in highways and the roads we do construction, so it's like part of our neural pathways have like been under construction. I actually did a transmission talking about possibly dreaming of reconstructed homes, or homes that are construction, or like just moving in somewhere where there's like literally and or in dream time, because it's like yeah, this like demolition phase collectively as well. Something else that was coming through, I'll probably go into this more on the Patreon, but you may have been having like conversations in your head that seemingly out of nowhere. You may be seeing 609, and I wrote down the phrase synchronistic deja vu. Okay, so I've been having deja vu. I talk about this a lot because I've been having it my whole life. Maybe you have too, or maybe some of you are just starting. Now, something I've noticed that is increasing is the synchronistic connection while experiencing deja vu. So maybe before I would have, let's say, something synchronistic happen, and then a little bit later deja vu, and then, again. Now it's like happening, the lapse time is less. So I may have like 3 deep synchronicities, and then like a second later experience deja vu, and then boom, 2 more happen. Like things are like really, it's almost like that miasma or frozen light, like that's being melted, is allowing for a speeding up of some of these experiences to like unfold in real time. I just saw on the timer 101, and then it was 111, so you could be seeing variations of that as well. So back to the conversations in, yeah, you may be like finding yourself, some of you maybe already do this all the time, but like having these conversations, you also may be having like quick redirections, like someone just asked me to do something today and then was like, never mind. You may be having things like cancel, start, like there may be like that type of energy coming through. But yeah, the conversations, like you may be having these conversations in your mind, and then all of a sudden like things in your external reality start showing up to confirm those conversations with certain people, and then eventually it feels like it's leading up to actually a physical experience with someone. And this happened yesterday, and for some reason I haven't thought about Eminem the rapper or rap in a while, and I was just talking about rap and Eminem, and then a friend like messaged me and was like, have you ever heard this like specific Eminem song? Like we talk all the time and we like never talk about Eminem, but the person I was having the conversation with wasn't even her. So I feel like then there were like other synchronicities that came through about like I don't know if I want to get into this. There were other beings. There were other like music artists that I hadn't thought about in so long that were like running through my head, like Jay-Z. Who was the other one? There was another one. And last night, the place that I just got to, that I was speaking about, and we were watching this dog, when I turned on something, a music channel was on. I didn't even know they had music channels here. It's so funny. TVs are really hard for me. Like I still am, like remotes, like my whole life, they've been so confusing. And like every time I try and learn it, I don't know. I just have such a hard time. My stepdad used to get so frustrated with me when I lived with him because I like never properly learned how to like operate his TV. Anyway, that's just a side note. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but yeah, so I was like trying to figure out this TV, and I turned it on and music was on, and sure enough, who comes on? Jay-Z. And like it's just like things like that. So you may be having these experiences, but the person that I was having the conversation in my head with, like all day, just seeing like signs, synchronicities about them, like over and over and over, like in my face, to the point where I was just like giggling, because this happens a lot. But I like when it happens with something like that. So yeah, anyway, some of you could be experiencing this. I just saw like really bushy eyebrows. Someone, could have really bushy eyebrows, or maybe that's something that you want. I'm also seeing like 2 little eyes inside of an eyebrow. So maybe some of you have like drawings, or someone who has like kind of, what's that word? Almost like prismatic drawings, or there's a word for drawings that are not real, not realism, but I can't think of the word right now. If anyone remembers, please let me know. Yeah. I just saw 444 and 441. You may be seeing 144 as well. Lots of numbers coming through. Connection codes. Yeah, I will list some connection codes in the description most likely. I have been feeling a very strong like sacral plexus purification. So some of you may feel really connected to that. That is like purifying through the root. So that could be happening for a lot of you. I'm seeing like an inverted triangle. Whoa, there's like a circling of so many, are they birds or dragonflies outside the window? I don't know, but it looks beautiful. Yeah. Oh, I also found like so many feathers the other day, and they were all wet because it rained. So that's very specific. Some of you could be finding wet feathers. They don't have to be wet, but that's just like an extra confirmation for some of you. Or it could be raining a lot wherever you are. As I said that, a drop of water from my cup just hit my chest, right at my cleavage. So, yeah, like condensation, emotional overflow, you know, that's really, really present right now. The number 611 has been coming up so much as well. Maybe I'll look that up. That's actually an old address for my friend who moved states. So some of you may be moving states or moving her provinces or regions. Like some of you may be moving soon. 611 is a number encouraging you to trust your intuition, make positive changes, and find balance between your spiritual and material needs. It signals a time for self-growth, innovative thinking, and potentially new beginnings in areas like home life. Oh, there we go. I was just talking about that. Relationships or career. That's funny. Yeah, I feel like that's what this has been a lot about. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting ready to close out. Let me just see if there are any last... Oh, yeah. Also, the observer effect, black holes and white holes are coming through. So they've been coming through for a few days, actually. And my friend, I was talking about black holes and white holes, and then my friend sent me, seemingly randomly, an article about black holes. So I might go more into that on the overflow as well. Also, Melchizedek has been coming through very strongly. Some of you may feel connected to Melchizedek, the lineage of Melchizedek, grid work, organic light grid, shape-shifting organic light grids has been coming through super strongly. So I've been talking about that on Patreon. So if that calls you, I do go more into that at different points on Patreon. Yeah, that feels pretty complete. Thank you so much. As always, if you want to share anything or have anything to say or ask, feel free in the comments. Yeah. Whatever you're doing or not doing to assist with yourself, you know, that's so great. Keep it up. And or if you're just starting out, I know it can be a little bit daunting when we're trying to make changes. I really love the idea of like understanding the micro and the macro and like keeping the big vision while making micro changes, you know, along the way. And I was also talking to a friend about this, like when we're trying to make changes, sometimes, you know, we have that mentality of like, if we don't do it perfectly, it's like, oh, you know, maybe not all of us, but I know that that's pretty common. And so Compassion, the dog that I'm sitting with right now, he just got up to get some sun. So maybe some of you are really like needing sun right now or doing like some sort of sun gazing practice. That feels really, really vital. Speaking of vital, your vitality feels like it is getting richer. Ooh. But yeah, so just having that compassion the best you can of like, it's kind of like, you know, if you know that you're really ready to do something, even if it's not happening 100% of the time, it's like trusting that you're going to keep coming back to this, whether it's a new habit, routine, whatever it is that you are The word instilling is coming through. Instilling. Yeah, like for example, I've been playing with intermittent fasting again, and I guess last week, I was doing a really good job. And then I think it was like last Saturday night. It's funny because I was just like craving pizza for like weeks, but like the opportunity just hadn't presented itself. And then I started my fast or whatever, or I was about to start, and my friend messaged me like, hey, I just ordered pizza. Do you want to come have some pizza? And like part of me was like, But I was like, you know what? I do want some pizza. And I've been craving it, and it just like showed up. And I was like, absolutely, I'm going to come have some pizza and a glass of wine. And it was lovely. So like, and then the next day I went back to my fast and it was fine. You know, so I'm not encouraging everyone to like ditch their fast to eat pizza. That's not what I mean. I'm also someone who's been practicing intermittent fasting off and on for a long time. So I feel like I'm at a place where I can do things like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, just because maybe you make a decision that isn't fully going with what you intended, it's okay, because we have that next moment to start again. That's basically what I'm saying. So having that compassion and patience and just like keeping that big vision in mind, you know. You know, that balance has been coming through, you know, that word balance. So, okay. Thank you.